over the last few days, I've asked people, a lot of you, friends and colleagues, if you had stories about Jane or Kate. And people really shared sentiments, and the sentiments were this kind of really important juxtaposition of strength and perseverance and never backing down and taking on challenges. And I'm picturing these like superhero women, right? But also softness and empathy and really caring deeply for their teams and taking the time to mentor at every stage. So these women have this kind of really great strength and softness that I think we need in leaders. So, Kate Joncas. Kate also got started in the Main Street world, and she moved around to many different cities when she was in that Main Street phase, and eventually landed in Seattle, where she ran downtown Seattle for 20 years. And if you followed Kate's career, we were all sitting back going, wait, now she's going to the mayor's office? Like, how is this gonna work? And how cool that she's gonna get these two sides of the story. So then she became the deputy mayor in Seattle. And after she, again-ish, retired from all of that time in city work, again, many decades, she continues to be a consultant. She's now with MIG and does some of the other consulting on her own. She shared with me the other day that she hopes she does a third of her time getting money, a third of her time volunteering and serving on boards, which I know she does a lot of that, and then a third of her time in her garden. So I'm hopeful that she's getting that garden time. I don't know if you all were here, I think it was 10 years ago when she did a master talk about leadership. And I will never, ever forget the image of Kate virtually descending into her annual meeting with a helicopter hat on. And her message in that moment was to not take yourself so seriously, to be able to relax and enjoy the moment, but bring other people into the fold. And then 5 years ago, she did another master talk about Amazon coming into downtown Seattle. And she closed those remarks with sort of her thoughts around leadership. And she said two things that really stuck with me. One was, do not take any small risks. Like basically, go big or go home. Like, no one is going to get anywhere if we're being very fearful and cautious. Go for it, you guys. And the other thing she said was, don't wait for someone to invite you to a leadership moment. Basically, this is ours to grab. So, for all of your leadership and mentorship and time in the industry across multiple sectors, Kate Joncas.
Oh, thank you. And to Jane, we grew up in Main Street and IDA together, and her friendship and colleagueship for the last few years has been great. And thank you for the team for starting. The go-go music was fantastic, but then we had Nirvana, so I felt right at home. So I have, of course, a couple of thoughts. When I was the CEO of the Downtown Seattle Association, I was once introduced at this huge community meeting as, oh, this is Kate. If it wasn't impossible, it wouldn't be on her list. So I hear all my board members laughing in the audience after that. And you know, as downtown directors, we're seen as being responsible for everything in downtown, but in reality, we have very little control over anything. And I always thought that gave us a lot of flexibility to do exactly what needs to be done. Sometimes I think in this job about the only skill you need is persistence. And those of you who came to Seattle last year, you saw the opening of that fantastic waterfront park. Well, we had been working on that since 2001, and we had to defeat bad ideas by a governor, 3 mayors, and run 5 citywide campaigns to get that thing done because it died many times. It's one of those crazy projects only us downtown folk take on. Remember, if it wasn't impossible, wouldn't be on your list. So the Downtown Seattle board has 60 members, which everyone says is crazy. And that unruly board was my special present to John Scholes, who fantastically took over my spot. But to me, 60 board members made 60 mentors. That's what it meant to me. So, and one of my favorites was Blake Nordstrom, who's no longer with us, but he really lived by his values. And One day we were walking to a meeting in the corporate offices for Nordstrom, which are on the top floor of the store, and we were going up the internal staircase. Blake was taking them two at a time, as his wont, and I was wishing I had gone to the gym more often to keep up with him. But in the stairwell for the Nordstrom headquarters, it was a two-story graphic, and it was a giant triangle, and the wide part was at the top and the narrow part at the bottom. And at the top, it listed retail associates. And going down was all the kind of people who worked at Nordstrom, the buyers, the corporate people, the store managers, the regional managers. And at the very bottom was Blake and his dad and his brothers. And Blake told me that they had that there to remind them every day they were not at the top of the hierarchy. They were at the bottom of the hierarchy. And he said his job every day was only to make it possible for everyone above them to be successful. And I always thought that is a perfect example about how good values shape success, because that company was very successful, it was very values-based. I've also been thinking a lot about values, especially the last year or two, and how we need to keep downtown the place where the quintessential American values of tolerance, equal opportunity, and freedom to express ourselves are protected. So, yes. And I have to thank the excellent Prima Gupta in Philly for this, because she reminded me this year, downtown is very important to democracy. And you know, when I was in Seattle for the World Trade Organization meeting in 1999, the so-called battle in Seattle, there was a multi-hour march through downtown where the vegan dykes for fair trade marched with the Teamsters, and they both were chanting, "This is what democracy looks like." And I thought, that could have only happened in downtown. And the ability to create a space where people that are different than you, to appreciate those differences and look for common values, is critical to democracy. And we need to continue to provide that space where everyone is welcome. That's our job, number one. Yeah. Okay, that's the easy part. I have another one for you. I have been also thinking about what is the next for us as downtown leaders. And I believe our future is leading on the big issues that impact our streets every day: homelessness, addiction, and mental health. We are uniquely positioned to take leadership on this because we have strong leadership. We have a record of management success. And most importantly, I think our organizations are pragmatic. We know you don't succeed by putting ideology ahead of outcomes. That's a recipe for failing with your ideology intact. We are not getting anywhere managing up to those big systems, the justice systems and the mental health systems. But there are successful models emerging nationally, and there are a couple of brave downtown CEOs that are standing up to take leadership to try to fix this issue in their communities. We need to put together those coalitions to lead that change. And really, if not us, who? And if you hear who gave you permission, well, really, when have we ever asked for permission on anything? Okay? So I got some great advice about this job a number of years ago from the wonderful Mr. Uri in Houston. And he said, "Kate, when you no longer feel the rush of being out at the end of the diving board in this job, it's time to go." Well, I left the Downtown Seattle Association for a much higher and scarier diving board at the City of Seattle as deputy mayor. And now as MIG, I get to work on all kinds of interesting problems with people all around the country. So you out there, stay curious, stay persistent, step up to challenges, and live your values. And enjoy your time at the end of the diving board. I know I do. Thank you.